Hello, my name is Matthew Scammell, and I'm in my final year of the GPE program at the U of M. I'm presenting on my research question for the GPE 4700 class relating to Manitoba Hydro and the Grand Rapids Generating Station. For a short background, the Grand Rapids Generating Station is located on the Saskatchewan River, approximately 400 kilometers north of Winnipeg, and construction was completed in 1968, which resulted in the flooding of approximately 3,500 square kilometers. So, the research question itself is, how are the costs and benefits shared between the different stakeholders involved with the construction of the Grand Rapids Generating Station? I'm choosing to ask this question for a number of reasons. I'm interested in topics like environmental sustainability, renewable energies, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and wealth distribution. So this question is my attempt to integrate many different concepts I've learned while at university into a coherent research project. I was motivated to choose this question because of other questions that have arisen in my mind during previous classes, such as, where's the wealth going? There's clearly profits being made, but this wealth doesn't seem to be making its way to residents who are affected by the dam itself. Who is using all this electricity? 97% of Manitoba's electricity is from hydro dams, so almost the whole population is using it, but the majority of the province's population doesn't live where it is produced. We only know that it turns on our lights, it's renewable, and we get a bill for our usage. We typically don't know much about the communities that are being impacted by the generation of the electricity itself. What were the impacts to hunting, fishing, and trapping? Are people able to continue their traditional livelihoods? Were migratory routes of mammals affected? Were fish spawning grounds affected? How does dislocation affect an Indigenous community? Chimawan Cree Nation was entirely relocated due to the flooding of this dam. The teachings and traditions of Cree people are interrelated with and inextricable from the land itself. Removing them from their homes and the home of previous generations must have had enormous impacts: social impacts, economic impacts, psychological and spiritual impacts, multi-generational impacts. These are examples of questions that brought me towards my research project in general. And the photo I decided to include is one taken during a protest at the Manitoba Hydro head office in downtown Winnipeg, just in the summer of 2019, opposing recent policy change being made by Manitoba Hydro to remove staff in the Grand Rapids Generating Station from overnight shifts, alarming residents who live just downstream from the dam and would be directly in harm's way if there were to be a breach. The protest in Winnipeg was held in solidarity with a rally in March in Grand Rapids as well, which is on this slide here. And I've included a second photo as well. So the first one's of the residents at that protest. And they've included an overhead photo as well for reference to show the magnitude of the structure holding back all that water. And if you look kind of to the right of that bottom photo, you can see where those people in the top photo would be standing and how dwarfed they are by the size of that dam. So in terms of the stakeholders, I'm conceptualizing roughly 4 groups. There's the first one being local residents living near the dam, comprising mostly of Cree and Métis communities. Manitoba Hydro, who constructed and operates the dam until today. The Manitoba government earns revenue. They earn revenue from the water rentals that Manitoba Hydro pays to dam that river, and they regulate the Crown Corporation with their own provincial legislation. The final group is the consumers of the electricity. Most of these people live in Winnipeg, but it also includes the people living in Grand Rapids as well, since they still have to pay for hydro. These groups are not mutually exclusive. So elsewhere, you might ask, hydroelectricity is exported by Manitoba Hydro to Saskatchewan, Ontario, and the United States, where rates are often cheaper than what is paid by Manitobans. So in terms of methods, I'm proposing to use a mixed methods approach, incorporating both qualitative and quantitative data into my study. The quantitative data I want to include is mostly on looking through Manitoba Hydro's public records on finances, electricity generation, compensation agreements signed with the various communities The quantitative data would assist myself and the readers in understanding how much wealth not only went into the construction and maintenance of the dam, but also how much wealth flows out in total, and then how much of that total is actually reaching the community's residents. And in terms of the qualitative data, I want to look at previous academic research done on the community, media coverage of various events affecting the community, such as protests, inquiry reports. I would use this to form a historical analysis of the community and provide some context for helping to understand not just how the relationship between Manitoba Hydro and Grand Rapids formed, but also how the power dynamics within the relationship are in play today. In terms of theory, I want to take a critical approach rooted in anti-oppressive theories such as settler colonialism, decolonization, and Marxism. I believe these theories will help explain the development of hydroelectricity in Grand Rapids and the actions of the project proponents, such as the government and Manitoba Hydro itself. And to the most important question of all, so what? What does it matter what happened in the past? A lot of people will say it's renewable energy, it's produced locally, it's sustainable. Manitoba Hydro has murals such as this one in Winnipeg showing that, I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but energy efficient washing machines plus LED light bulbs equals pristine natural environment. That is just not reality. It's the logic used to justify these types of actions and development are inherently flawed, and it's people need to be asking more questions such as this, because there's a lot more to their activities than meets the eye. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls National Inquiry released their final report in 2019, and their call for justice within that report, call for justice number 13.4, section 13 was for extractive industries, but the specific point 13.4 calls for an inquiry into historical racist and sexual oppression in northern Manitoba at hydroelectric dam construction sites. And so this is just a call for further questioning and investigations into the activities of Manitoba Hydro in this province to see what has been done in the past and how we might be able to move forward. So that's what I want to look at. Thank you for listening.